Hi everyone, I hope you're well and looking forward to this webinar with Zurich. Zurich is a leading insurance company headquartered in Switzerland. Its customers range from individuals to mid-sized companies and multinational organisations. Today we don't just want to tell you about Zurich, but we also want to open your minds to a sector that you might not have thought of going into, which is insurance. Over the last few years, we've seen many employers from new sectors wanting you, STEM students. These range from obviously insurance to intellectual property and law, to name a few. All of these employers and sectors can be found on GradCracker. So take a look at the sector search under employers and sectors, which is situated on the top menu of the website to find out more. There are numerous sectors with hundreds of employers and thousands of opportunities. A more detailed explanation of the sectors can also be found in the GradCracker Career Centre. Sophie, who we all know, has put together a short podcast for many of the sectors you can go into. This area is called Sophie's Super Sectors. Who'd have thought it is, Sophie's Super Sectors. Now, Zurich is fairly new to GradCracker, and we've treated them to this webinar so they can tell you all about themselves, who they are and what they do. So let's start with the introductions. Georgia, Smiley Georgia at the bottom there of my screen, was very excited about joining GradCracker and also this webinar. So Georgia is the Talent Acquisition Advisor at Zurich, and Georgia's going to give us a little bit more of an insight to who Zurich is and also take us through the application process and any hints and tips. Now we're going to go on to the grads, and they're going to tell us a little bit about their job title and what their job entails. So, Abby, if I can start with you. So you work in international property underwriting. What does that mean?
Yeah, so this is my second rotation on the grad scheme. So we deal with the international property business at Zurich. So that's either customers with domestic policies within the UK all the way up to bigger kind of global programs of locations in up to 30 territories. So my typical day would involve assisting the property underwriters within my team on their accounts, whether that be helping with pricing with their renewals or new business opportunities, all the way up to liaising with risk engineering team as well to obtain kind of accurate risk data for our locations. So yeah, no day is the same, and there's always a lot to learn as well with plenty of training opportunities.
Wow, thank you, Abby. Isaac, on to you.
Hi, so I'm a junior data scientist, and data science is quite a new thing in Zurich at the moment. So what we're doing is literally constantly changing. But most of it revolves around coding, so in languages such as Python or R, and it can be anything from gathering external data to like clean, analyze, and draw like inferences from that might help the business, to creating softwares for other people to use, and even making models which like predict how likely things are to happen, such as like predicting whether a building is likely to be listed, which is a listed building is like an old building, basically, an old pretty building. But yeah, it's really diverse. It's very fun.
Oh, good. Thank you, Isaac. And George, on to you.
Yeah, so like Abby, I'm also on rotations within Zurich. Currently, I work in a claims specialty team, and specialty effectively means products that are probably less traditional. So we've got products such as cyber, property directors and officers would be the type of things that we would expect to see. But effectively, I'm supporting one of the claims managers there. So I get involved in all the different teams, and it's a great opportunity to speak to lots of different people and learn about lots of different products in a very short time.
Thank you, George. And Shalini, last but not least.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm actually in a claims team. I'm also on my second rotation on the grad program. So I'm in the claims digital experience team, and in this role, I'm typically responsible for ownership of a couple of different projects that are ongoing. I get to get my hands dirty and experience lots of different stakeholders and interact with different companies outside of Zurich, so insurtechs and other technology companies that are able to assist with the facilitation of improving the customer journey from the claims perspective.
Fantastic, thank you. So obviously there's, as you can tell, there's a huge variety of roles and different rotations open at Zurich, and we'll find out a little bit more from the grads later on. So thank you very much for the introductions. Georgia, if I could start with you. So we all know Zurich as an insurance company, but I really do want to dig a little bit deeper than just the headline, and get to know who you really are and the different messages that you want to get out to our students. So just answer like a basic question. So how wide ranging are the things that you insure, and kind of what sort of sectors do you work in?
So in terms of the sectors that we've got several arms to our business. So we've got Zurich Municipal, which looks after the likes of schools, education providers and public sector properties. We've also got our general insurance, so car, travel and property, that kind of thing. Then we've got commercial insurance, so for businesses, and our life insurance. So we've got a wide range of customers, including individuals, charities, small businesses, and some of the most well-known large organisations. One thing I wanted to throw in there, because I didn't know this and I learned it the other day.
Ooh, I like an insight.
We actually, we inspect the Wembley Stadium so we can ensure that England can play at home. And I was like, oh, it's quite interesting.
That is something to be proud of. So when the graduates or your interns join Zurich, can they experience all different sectors, or is it just one sector that we're working on, or working within, should I say?
Yeah, so it kind of depends into what business stream they filter into. So, you know, which business stream you choose, and then which department that you then go into. So there's possibility that you can fall into any of those sectors.
Brilliant, thank you. And how, you know, you've just mentioned the diversity from working in the public sector all the way to, you know, football stadiums or sports stadiums. Is it, I'm just going to be blunt, is it just a desk job, or could you find yourself, you know, climbing an oil rig to survey the dangers involved in that? So how, you know, how much field work is involved?
So we certainly have a variety of roles available, and we do tend to leave the climbing up oil rigs and lift shafts to our engineers.
Yeah.
So a career in insurance can certainly be diverse. We need engineer surveyors to inspect for claims.
Yeah.
And then we've got the claims handlers that are in the offices that process the claims. And then we've got the underwriters to write the policies. So in terms of that diversity, it depends how you come in. So no, it's not just all office based.
Oh, fab. I would really want to climb that oil rig, to be honest. I would get away from my desk and climb the rig.
Yeah, if you've got a fear for heights, you probably don't want jelly legs at the top of it.
To be fair, Georgia, I'm quite scared of heights. It probably won't be for me. So yeah, really, that's really interesting. Thank you for that. Now, obviously, we all know the STEM students out there who are listening and watching on today might think, well, why would an insurance company, you know, the insurance sector in Zurich in particular, want me? So, what is it about a STEM student that why you want them to apply?
STEM candidates are essential to our business. We need people that have got strong analytical skills, they're confident with data mining and just are able to interrogate numbers, and just make them mean something. So you might not associate insurance with technology, but as tech is constantly changing and we are growing, a team that work on internal and external platforms at the moment, and we just need to ensure that we are always evolving and growing as a company. So STEM students are really, really important to helping us grow and develop our business.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks very much for that insight. And we'll be joined with Georgia a little bit later on as well, towards the end of the webinar. Well, Georgia will be going through the application process and also the hints and tips that she can give us or give you, the students, to apply to the opportunities. So thank you very much for that introduction. Before I hand over to Jess, I did want to speak to, all of the grads and interns out there who are watching today. And I did want to mention that now more so than ever, the quality of your application is really, really important. We're seeing record-breaking visitor numbers to GradCracker every single day, and you really need to make sure that your application stands out. So you might be thinking, okay, yeah, that's fine, but how do I do this? What you need to do is much research as you possibly can to really put Jessica's smiling there, nodding away. This is what Jess says every single day to the student.
Every single day.
But yeah, so make sure you put out a really well thought out application together. All of the information you need is at your fingertips, whether it's on the GradCracker company hubs, where each employer has information about them, including very detailed job descriptions, employee profiles, videos, and pages of things like FAQs, the sectors they work in, and the career progression. Don't forget the Careers Centre, which is advice given from our employers direct to you. So this isn't us saying this is our employers who are getting all those messages out there. There's lots of handy hints and tips about interview techniques, online applications, and starting the job. These can be found in video, podcast, and blog format. Don't forget these webinars, the Zurich webinar included, will also be included within the GradCracker Career Centre as well. We break up the webinars, I know I say this every week, but we break up the webinars and feature them under the advice sections or feature them as a whole webinar as well. So at the end of this, the Zurich webinar will be live tomorrow as a whole, and then early doors next week, split up into the different sections. Make sure you do your research and make sure you put in a really good quality application. And Georgia will back me up at the end of this webinar with all the hints and tips, and she will be saying exactly the same thing, I guarantee it. Anyway, right, that's enough of me preaching and being everybody's mum. So Jess, over to you, my love.
Brilliant, thanks, Carla. No, I'm glad you touched on that, because that is something I feel like I'm saying to everyone all the time. So thank you for reiterating. So firstly, again, it's a big part of my job is speaking to students all the time, and it's interesting from us GradCracker, it's not a company even I would think of straight away, STEM students going into insurance. So Abby, I'm going to start with you. Why did you choose to apply to Zurich?
I think for me, it was definitely the rotational aspect of the grad scheme. So we can kind of experience a variety of different roles across Zurich. So whether that be in either claims, underwriting, life, or they've got business functions as well, such as kind of marketing and HR. So I think it's an amazing opportunity to kind of develop skills in a variety of different areas, and work with different people across the business as well. And then obviously you can just apply different aspects of your degree into all those different rotations that you get to experience. So that was definitely the big selling point for me, I'd say.
Fantastic, brilliant. Isaac, I know your story was a little bit different. I'm right in thinking that you actually applied for a different role and to the one that you're actually in now. Is that right?
Yeah, indeed. It's a little bit embarrassing, actually. I turned up to the role thinking it was a different role to what I actually came to do. I think I applied for being an actuary, and I turned up thinking it was auditing, and obviously that did not go very well. But still gave it my all at the assessment centre, and I was quite lucky in that the big boss of my current team, Anarita Rashino, was my assessor, and she absolutely lay into me, to be honest. She knew that I clearly didn't really know what I was doing, but she really appreciated she saw potential basically for to be a data scientist instead. So she gave me the opportunity. She said, "No, you're not being an actuary. You've not done well here, Isaac, but we really think that you'd fit in well as a junior data scientist." So she fast tracked me through, and I reapplied as a junior data scientist. And I'd never thought about it before, but I'm really glad that happened, because it fits my strengths so much better, and I really enjoy the job. So I'm just glad the opportunity got offered to me, really.
Yeah, so out of a bad situation came a good one.
Yeah.
But Isaac, we would tell everyone that's listening, make sure you research.
Yeah, this is definitely do your research.
Georgia was just shaking her head. They're like, no, not what you do.
But no, that's good. But that you are, it just shows as well. the recruiters, the people at the other end of the desk, they do want the best for you. They'll know if you're a fit, and they'll see those skills, those kind of soft skills, whether you're a good communicator, if you are passionate. But it will help if you do know the role that you're applying to. So do try and do that first. But some of I mention a lot when I'm speaking to students, those kind of, I keep mentioning soft skills, but I mean things like being a good communicator, a good team player, showing how passionate you are. It does come across, and it can really help. So in your case, Isaac, obviously, that was the thing that got you through by the skin of your teeth, which is good. So stay with you, Isaac. Tell me a bit more about your role in data science and what that actually entails.
So as I mentioned earlier, it's all to do with data, unsurprisingly. It's a lot of finding data sets, cleaning data sets, just doing lots of things in coding, mainly, as I said, in Python and R, but also in languages such as SQL, Visual Basic. Basically, everything under the sun has a place in data scientists to do with coding. But surprisingly enough, there's also a lot of opportunities to present, document. It's a lot of Googling. I do a lot of Googling, and also a lot of learning, which is really nice. It's very constantly different challenges and exciting things to learn. And it's all about trying to deliver value from data to the business.
Brilliant. So some of those coding languages that you've learned, then have you learned that on the job, or was there languages you knew before you started?
Before I joined, I knew tiny little bit of Python, right. And I knew R quite well. But then everything else I've learned, so I've probably learned another 4 or 5 languages on the job.
Oh, really? Wow.
Very exciting.
I'm going to touch upon training, but did Zurich help you with the training on that? Or was that something you wanted to do and you did off your own kind of merit?
Yeah, they very much helped me, particularly my manager, always willing to lend 30 minutes to help me go through a complex bit of code that I didn't understand or something. There's loads of resources. They're always trying to get more stuff out there to try and help you develop.
Yeah, brilliant. That's good. George, I'm going to come to you next. If you could tell me a bit about the team you work in as well, and the role you play within your team.
Yeah, thanks. So as I said, I work in a claims team for specialty lines at the moment. And my role really is to support the team manager, who is the manager across all 4 teams. So whilst his job is really varied, it's meant that subsequently so is mine. And from my perspective, it means that I've been increased exposure to lots of different people in lots of different areas. And I think that the best thing for me has been, there's been so many different handlers, claims handlers that is, that I've been able to speak to, gain knowledge from, get in touch with, that it expands obviously your own network whilst also increasing, what work you're doing and the variety of it. So I've been really lucky in that perspective. And the managers that I've had so far throughout Zurich have been really, really supportive. And I think all of them are really good on development. And it's meant that, to be honest, I think that when you come in as a graduate, you get such a sort of a good pedestal to go and really develop in the areas you want to develop in. And going back to what Isaac was saying, that the training aspect is such that, if there's something that you really want to focus on, whether it be within your job remit at the moment or not, my manager has supported me on that. And whether that means I need to take time out to go and do certain training sessions, or whether there's an online suite of different training modules that you can go through, I think that support's always been there. But the job I do at the moment means I can sort of vary between doing the job I do and also what I want to gain from being on the grad scheme.
Oh, good. Shalani, I'm going to kind of ask the same question to you as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, cool. So my role in my team, so like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm in a project-based role. So I'm in the claims digital experience team, and my manager basically hands different projects to each of the consultants in the team, and we get to pick and choose which one we want to kind of run with. So this can range from different digital projects to internal projects like tweaking different systems to make the user that uses it their life a bit easier. So for example, I'm working on an app right now that helps customers interact with their claims handler a bit better, because previously they didn't really, especially in times when they're not able to physically visit their risk engineer or claims handler for them to visit the site of the damaged site, it's a bit difficult to assess the claim. So now I'm developing with another group in Zurich, developing this app to help remotely assess a claim, which is quite exciting. So yeah, I get to interact with loads of different stakeholders, internal and external. And the overall kind of aim of my role is to improve the customer's digital journey. And this could be through improving the claims process or improving the claims handlers' system experience so that they have a swifter settlement of claims, really.
Brilliant. Okay, so it sounds as though you all kind of work on quite a lot of different projects, you know, throughout the graduate programme. What would you say your favourite one's been so far?
I would say my favourite one was probably the one that is a project that was launched a few months ago now. So it was part of Zurich's web chat function, so that basically customers have more communication channels to contact their Zurich claims handler on. So previously Zurich only had phone, email or post. So I was lucky enough to work on the project where we used the system Live Person, which is an external company, to introduce 3 new channels, the communication channels to our customers. So this was SMS, WhatsApp, and web messaging. So the chat function that you see on the website. So this involved working with IBM, which was really great because you know, they're a tech giant, and it was really good to see how they were building the bot for us to kind of use. So I helped to launch that and build the portal for us to kind of assess how these conversations were coming in. So I also got to get involved in some of the live testing just before it launched to see how it would all kind of run smoothly. And there were a few little tweaks that we needed to make, but we now we have launched it since then, and we get to track it to see how it kind of is going. So I sometimes make like manual transfers of the conversation because it doesn't it's not always running smoothly as it could. So yeah, it's really exciting to get to work on something that's actually out there and it's live.
Did you get involved with the whole project from start to finish then?
So it wasn't the whole project because I wasn't actually in that rotation yet. So I joined in June and the project had actually been running for a year by then. So I actually joined at the perfect time because I got to join as soon as it, like just when it was about to launch. So I got to get involved in all the exciting parts of the project.
Oh, that's great. And it must be nice, you know, so many people will be using that feature and think, oh, I did that. You know, it's got, you know, got your touch in it, which is great. Isaac, how about you? What's your favourite project you've worked on so far?
So my favourite project was creating a model which predicts how likely every commercial property in the UK is to have a fire. So it'd be a score between 0 and 1, and then 0 is very, very unlikely to have a fire, and then 1 is like get out of that house. And it was so enjoyable because it involved every single part of everything that I've already said about data science. It's like so constantly changing and exciting, and it was so rewarding to have like a model at the end of the day. And it was really interesting to see how my job was actually relating to the business, because they then took the fire scores that I have, and then they sometimes use it to model the prices for the actual insurance. And it was really interesting to see my job actually reaching, you know, the actual product of Zurich.
I bet. And it's quite a lot of responsibility, that making sure you get it right. And
oh yeah, it was terrifying. When I first made it, it was really, really bad, and it was really bad at predicting fires, and it had no idea what was going on. And I was like, oh no. But no, it was exciting.
Good.
Isaac, what do you have to look for then? And is it like if a property is made of different materials and things like that? So how do you get these ratings?
Basically, just everything really. We the way we make models is we usually gather as much data as possible about things, like for example about houses, and then we just chuck it into the models and see how we can get it working, fine tune them so that they do as good as possible. And the most important ones are whether it's listed or not, because listed buildings are usually quite old, and like that you're not allowed to change them by law. So they normally have really old rusty pipes and stuff and things like that, so they break. And then because it's commercial, whether they have a food standards agency rating, which is essentially like it's a score from 1 to 5 about how you know, how good their catering facilities are. And it's because if you have a catering facility, it turns out you're much more likely to have a fire. Yeah.
When you were talking, then Isaac, a fire engine just went past my building. I was like,
Oh no.
That's well timed. Don't know if you all heard that. So yeah, perfect method. Thanks for that, Isaac. Sorry, Jess, I was just interested in that bit.
No, that's fine. No, that was really interesting. Thank you, Isaac. George, I'm going to move to you next. Favourite project, please?
Yeah, so it's one I did, or I actually just finished recently, but in claims we have some files that are known as aged files. And it is exactly how it sounds on the tin type thing. It's really the types of claims that aren't closed at the moment, but were probably first reported to Zurich back in sometimes in the 90s. So it's really getting an idea as to why those are still open, and effectively kind of what would we rate them now as? Are they likely to pay 20 million because that particular claim has continued to go on for so long? Or is it something that we can look to close off a lot sooner? So this particular project for me was great because initially to get that data, you've got to speak to the actuarial teams. So from my perspective, it was more of a data project to begin with. And then the project sort of evolved into more of, how do we get these updates from handlers? And then you use the communication side of things around, how do we report on this data and how do I display it so that I'm actually providing, I suppose, a value to the head of the claims teams to show them exactly, here's the amount we've got in the year 95 that's not closed, and here's how many we've got in sort of 2010, for example. So it was my favorite project in that I got to see it from start to finish, which is great. There was a huge ownership from my side, which I was looking to take on and try and, I suppose, showcase some of your own skills. But really, it's that sort of, here's a project I've finished, and you hand it back to them, and like you said earlier, Jess, it was sort of something that you can put your stamp on and say, I did this, and hopefully, future graduates come in or someone else decides to come into that team, they might use it as a base. Or I hope maybe they find an even easier and better way to do it, and then that's a benefit to them as well.
That's great. So did you manage to close quite a lot of the old files then? Was that?
Yeah, so we used a rating system and we were able to get rid of a few, but I won't tell you the overall number, but there's still a hefty amount to get through.
Oh, well, you're getting through it then. That's good.
Slowly.
Abby, please tell me your favourite project. I feel as though I haven't spoken to you for a while. Hello.
Yeah, no, I'd say, so going back into my claims, my first rotation in claims, I kind of got involved in an internal project working on a competitor analysis piece. So we looked at the online claims journey, and then kind of compared that against our key competitors. So that was a good way for me, like just starting the role as well, to not only learn about our kind of capabilities at Zurich, but also about what's happening in the market and how we compare against our key competitors. And then I had the opportunity to kind of present that back, my key findings at the end of the project, at the end to some key stakeholders. So no, that was really good. But yeah, I think there's been other opportunities to get involved in projects, not just within my team as well. And there's loads of things that go on kind of outside your team where you kind of network across and get involved in projects that go all over Zurich. So
that's good. I really, I like the idea that you can network, meet other people, you're not just stuck within one team. I think that's so important.
Definitely.
Networking is key and making those relationships is great. So that's good. I bet you were nervous when you did your presentation though.
Yeah, definitely. Especially being in my kind of that was in my first role as well. I think that's probably the first time I kind of presented back to some bigwigs of Zurich. So yeah, that was a good one.
Oh, well done there. So yeah, kind of moving back to training, I know we mentioned it at the beginning, and I know that when I speak to a lot of the students, it's one thing that they look for when they're looking at job descriptions, looking at different companies out there. A lot of students say they want training when they get into the graduate program or into the placement. So George, I know you've got some examples of the training that you've gone through. Can you tell the audience a bit more detail about your experiences there?
Yeah, I mean, we've been through a lot of training. I think all of us on the call can testify to that, and it's a really good thing because we've got obviously the on-the-job training. So in my current role, when I first started, I was sat down with certain claims handlers to go through systems, why they reserve in claims, what instances would we pay a claim, what times wouldn't we? But then also outside of that, we're doing insurance-based exams as well, which are well known within the market, the insurance market that is, for, I suppose, getting something against your name that says, I understand this part of insurance, I understand different areas and different lines of business. So I think really for us as well, we're creating and having training that is giving us not only help in our current role, but something that we can take forward with us. And I think when you look at a lot of the people who are probably like the leaders within Zurich, i.e. like the directors or people who are in sort of corporate roles, a lot of them have gone through these market insurance exams already. So I think it's important to do it, because if you've got aspirations of taking your career to that level, I think the expectation is that you have done these at some point. So to do them so early on in our career is really good, because then it sort of gets it out of the way in one respect, but equally you learn a lot as you do them. So there's that side of it. But then also we learn kind of from each other, and we're all doing very different jobs. So even today for me, you know, I'm learning things about different areas of the business, which although isn't, you know, training where we sit down and we specifically talk about it, you know, just by sort of earwigging conversations, sometimes that's training in itself.
Mm-hmm. So these exams then that you do, you know, obviously the more exams you do, the more qualified you'll be, but then where does that lead you? Where, you know, you do all these exams, what could you be at the end of that?
Yeah, I mean, the exams don't sort of result in any job, and I think that's a good thing, because really you should want to do the exams because you want to learn to begin with. Okay. But what they really do is give you a good overview of insurance outside of Zurich as well, and that's really important, because I think in order for you to, you know, look after customers in the correct way and sort of go about your career in the way that you want to, you need to understand more than just the job you do, don't you? So I think that's what the exams are based around, but sometimes it might introduce you to an area of insurance you've never been a part of before. Yeah, and you might decide, oh, actually, I'd like to go and maybe do 6 months working in that team, and that's something that Zurich would support you on. Yeah,
no, that's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, so moving to you then, Shalani, what kind of training have you had in terms of being on the programme so far?
Yeah, so I think much of the same as George mentioned. So on top of like our insurance exams, where we get to kind of get an in-depth, you know, exposure into like what insurance basically is, and I feel like once we're qualified and things like that, you are a lot more attractive to the insurance market. So you get to, you know, be exposed to different roles that you typically wouldn't have thought about joining, as George mentioned. So yeah, we get that kind of training, but then also like our own team training. So I was actually part of the global energy underwriting team in my previous role, and I had not a clue about what that entailed. So I received a lot of training into, you know, insuring an oil rig, as you guys mentioned earlier. So yeah, it was a lot of industry specialized knowledge into what exactly energy insurance is. So this entailed things like company presentations. So I would go and sit with clients, and they would tell me all about what kind of things they want to insure. I'd go to different broker meetings, and then yeah, training involved me going to the Lloyd's of London building and just receiving like different lectures on different topics, such as you know, what are the typical loss scenarios in an energy insurance asset. So yeah, it was really interesting. And then in my current role, I get lots of training, because the role entails me having to then pass on my training skills to different claims teams, because the digital team are the ones that have to learn it first. So I get trained to be a trainer, and then share my wider expertise to the claims function. So that's really good. And then for the grad program, through the grad program as well, we receive like a vast amount of training. So in terms of personal development, and then soft skill training too. So for example, like when pre-COVID, we used to go to lots of different workshops, and we used to get together as a cohort, and we'd like do things like analysing our types of personality, and then we'd have to see how we can adapt this in the workplace. So that was really interesting to do. And then just recently we were involved in like a presentation workshop. So that was actually meant to be done face to face, but it had to be moved virtually, which actually turned out to be better, because I've been able to like use those skills now and learn how to do a presentation virtually, which is something that you typically wouldn't know how to do. So yeah, lots of training involved on the grad program.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think a bit naive to the whole insurance world. You just think of the times that you've had to, you know, go through the insurance process, whether it be car insurance or home insurance. But yeah, you don't think about, you know, like you said, working on, you know, insuring the oil sector or the energy sector or whatever. That just never even crossed my mind. That's kind of like,
yeah.
that, you kind of don't think of stuff like that. You just think insurance, like I say, pet insurance or something like that. That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to get involved in the commercial side of insurance, because a lot of the times we do think it's just personal insurance, like car or motor or travel insurance. So seeing it from like a really big perspective and insuring like millions of dollars of assets is like really insightful, and it's nice to get involved in, even though I can't actually write any of the deals myself right now.
Not yet.
I was going to say
Not yet.
That's cool though. Again, it's something you don't think about. So the next thing I want to kind of talk about is like your future plans and the ambitions that you're hoping to have with Zurich, and what the future's looking like for you all. So Abby, what's the future going to tell for you if you could plan it out?
Good question. I think the good thing about the grad scheme is that you can kind of get the opportunity to explore all different areas, obviously, of the organisation, like I said before. So I think the more rotations I go in, the more I'm going to learn about what I want to do kind of long term. So I'm still kind of ironing that out at the moment, but I'm hoping to kind of in the future gain experience in a technical claims handling role, so I can kind of gain further expertise and credibility that I can then take into future roles. And then I think at the end of the grad scheme, I quite like to be in a role where I can kind of use my creativity, because I quite enjoy that side of things, and then be in something where I can work with a variety of different people, as well as our customers as well, because I quite like that external facing aspect. And then I think also just utilize kind of project management and leadership skills and really develop my skills in that area, I'd say, is my kind of 5-year plan.
Brilliant. It's good that you said that though, because I think sometimes as well, going on a graduate program, I know you've kind of committed at that point to that particular employer in that industry, but it's okay to start kind of be still on a grad program, not really show what you want to do at the end of it. That's the whole point of the grad program, to try and experience, get as much exposure, network, like everyone said. And, it's a great point that, you don't have to know yet. And it's
definitely. I think it's hard not to put pressure on yourself to be like, oh, I need to know exactly what I want to do. But I think that is the beauty of the grad program, is that the more you go on, I'm learning more and more about myself in each kind of rotation, because I know what I like and what I really don't want to do. So that's really good.
George, how about you?
Yeah, a little bit similar to Abby. I probably don't know what that thing is I want to do at the end. I think what I've really found helpful going through the rotations I've done is just trying to find things that that you're interested in, and because I think that really, if you want to develop your career in it, you're going to have to be quite passionate about that type of thing. So I think for me personally, I would probably look to be in a sort of a niche area of insurance. So maybe something that's fairly small at the moment, but could grow into quite a big line of insurance. So I suppose one of the things, and it's not small anymore, but an example of that would be, 2 years ago, cyber insurance wasn't really a really big part of insurance, but now it seems almost unquestionable that you wouldn't have it as a business because of the amount of cyber attacks we're seeing, and partly down to that is the fact that it's all over the news, isn't it? And people then sort of learn via that way. So I think I'd like to try and find some sort of insurance that is like that. And then as that area of insurance gets bigger and you're there at the beginning, you kind of grow with it. So, even though you're in a big company like Zurich, it kind of feels like you're working for a small company, because it's just you and maybe 3 or 4 other people in the team. And then all of a sudden, over 2 or 3 years, it might double in size. And subsequently, I think you can grow with that, which is nice.
Yeah, and that's another really interesting point, because like you say, you just think you're always going to need home and life insurance or whatever, but there's so many different areas of it that's growing, new, changing, which must be really exciting. Shalani, how about you?
So I think much of the same as what the other guys have said. So I think because I've still got 2 rotations left on the grad scheme, I think my main kind of plan is to get a broad range of like different skills and knowledge, and get to grips of the main functions of Zurich. So I've done like a stint in life insurance, I've done a bit of underwriting, done some claims, and I'd really like to go and look at Zurich Municipal. So and gaining the knowledge there, and then also expanding my skill set. So I'd really like to get some managerial experience, because I know that it's possible on the grad scheme to be able to manage people, even though we're quite new to our careers ourselves. but also, yeah, just expanding my skill set in general and just becoming a more confident person, so that when I do move into my permanent role, I'm, you know, ready to kind of face it.
Yeah.
But then I would also say, in terms of my future plans, I think one of my main ambitions is to work abroad at one point. Because I know Zurich is like a really global company, and it's got offices like all over the world, and there's lots of different opportunities to go overseas and experience the culture and different offices and locations. So I think it would be a really great experience and to get some international exposure, because especially like in a stream of business such as energy insurance, it's worldwide, and to be able to go and like maybe do a site visit in one of the oil rigs, it's like something that I'd really want to experience at one point. So yeah, I'd say that.
George, I just ask you a question. You know, if a grad was on the grad program and they wanted to do something internationally within the grad program, can they do that, or is it typically they need to be in the UK?
Yeah, it is typically they need to be in the UK.
But then after that, they could say they want to go anywhere else, like Charlie said. Brilliant.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Isaac, how about you?
So my plans and ambitions for Zurich are mainly just to remove the junior from my name, from my title, sorry, and actually become a full-on data scientist.
Good.
But it's mainly around like self-progression and learning. Just make sure I'm making use of all of the opportunities that Zurich are providing to keep like becoming better at my job, becoming more knowledgeable about the sector, the business, just everything. Just keep learning and becoming better at my job is my plan, really, and then hopefully see where that takes me. Bigger and better things.
Sounds like a good plan. I like it. George, just want to talk to you next about the application process, if that's okay. And what advice would you give to any listeners that are very excited now, thinking, oh my God, I want to work at Zurich. How do I go about it? How do I make sure my application is successful? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, good question. I think I'll leave the how you put your application together down to maybe Georgia. She's probably seen so many of them. She'll probably tell you the good and the bad. But I think from the actual process, I think we mentioned this, but understand the company as much as possible, because you'd be expected to make reference to it in any interview or within your covering letter, whatever it may be. You know, you've got to tailor it to an extent, because it has to be sort of something that Zurich want from you. So that would be my first thing, and just coming with a real passion. I think the second thing is, during the application process, just kind of be patient as well. You know, we've probably all been in the same situation where you might have 2 or 3 applications on the go with different companies. And sometimes it can be quite hard and laborious to do all of them, but you just kind of need to have a bit of patience, because there are so many applicants sometimes that, you know, you're not going to hear, you know, the next day, as much as you'd like to refresh your email inbox. So just do that. And I think lastly, have an opinion if you've got one, and share it with in your interview and all your processes. I think in insurance, we're quite traditional at times, and that sometimes everyone just thinks about, like you say, insurance, and they think car insurance, pet insurance, and it's quite a processed, laborious, almost, you know, like financial type industry, and it's really not. And actually, I think going forward, they really want to hear from what we've got to say and offering our opinions. So if you've got an opinion, you know, it doesn't matter how junior you are. If it's a sensible opinion and you put it across the right way, then do it, because you'll stand out for the right reason.
Brilliant. Love it. Abby, how about you?
Yeah, I think, definitely agree with George, very much the same. I think, definitely a big one is to prepare. I think there wasn't any kind of specified prep work, I think, before the assessment centre. But I remember kind of sat in the hotel room the night before, kind of like researching away, and definitely the kind of scenario-based questions. It's good to have note down previous examples that you might have from uni or work, or like other activities that you can then kind of like have in your back pocket for the day. I think definitely, like, obviously smile, and then I think more just be yourself as well. I think Zurich as a brand as well, you can tell they definitely just want to get to know your personality and fit for the brand just as much as they want to know your kind of knowledge and general fit for the role as well. So that's definitely a good one.
No, that's great.
Relax, I think, as hard as that is, because easier said than done, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing, you know, the more research you do, and, you know, you can never be 100% confident in these situations. You know, all us before this were like, oh, I don't think I can do it. But then, you know, as long as you're prepared, you've got something to fall back on. We're all human. You just got to go for it, haven't you? Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, guys, for your advice. Carla, I'm going to hand the reins back to you.
Thanks, my love. Thanks.
Make it sensible again.
Back to normality. Yeah, I think I want to pick up on 2 points there. Firstly, Abby, just what you've mentioned, it is about relaxing, but what our boss always says to us, Jess, is showing that you are nervous is also good. It shows that you care, it shows that you're a human. I've done 5, 6, 7 of these webinars now, and beforehand we're all doing the chair dance, we're all trying to relax and everything else, and it's fine to just to be a little bit nervous and show that you are apprehensive, because that does mean you care. So thanks for picking that up, Abby. And also, George, something that you mentioned before, and I think this is more aimed at the undergraduates out there who are thinking about doing a placement. It's not just the structured training that you should learn on, it's about absorbing the environment as well. George has just said he's hearing about a lot of his colleagues here that he didn't really know that part of the business, and it's absolutely fine to be like that. Just always have your ears open, and this is what we say here at GradCracker as well. I've had structured training where my boss has sat me down and said, right, Carla, this is how you do this, but then I've also listened to people on the phone, listened to people present, and I've gained a lot of experience just by doing that as well. So I think grads who are currently in a graduate program, or interns thinking about going on to an internship placement, always have your ears open. I think that is really, really important. And George, that was a really good point to make. That I don't think we've made that point in previous webinars, so thank you very much for that. Georgia, little one sat there in the corner of my screen. So we've heard about how fantastic Zurich is, obviously all the different opportunities, which it's completely opened my mind. Now, obviously, a student can find the placements and the graduate opportunities on GradCracker, but can you just explain what the application process entails?
Yeah, of course. So I think, like you mentioned, Carla, with regards to sort of have a look at our hub on GradCracker, find out more, meet some of the people that are from Zurich. And see what they've got to say, and see what stream you like the sound of, and kind of go from there, really. I think the process from there is fairly straightforward. You just kind of apply on our online system, which is probably easier for you guys applying than us trying to use in the office. It's with we've had such a volume of applications already, so it'd be great to see sort of who applies off the back of this too. So once you get onto our online system, just pop in all your personal information, and then from there we will automatically progress you. So as long as you've sort of qualified from your pre-screening questions, you will then be progressed to what we call an SJT, which is a situational judgment test. I had to make sure I got that right there.
I noticed you slow down.
Yeah. And then after after that, there's a game. So that's to test your cognitive skills, and then followed by a video interview. So subject to passing the SJT, you'll then be moved forward onto sort of our values assessment. And then if you pass all of these, you will then be invited to our final stage interview, which consists of a case study followed by a competency interview. And of course, this year, we're under no illusion, things are very different. So of course, we have adapted our approach and catered for that. And everything is going to be digital and virtual. So we're moving away from the face-to-face assessments and centre days for now, and it's quite possible it might remain that way. And we're moving to a digital interview and case study exercise. So we're really looking forward to seeing how it all goes for everyone this year.
Georgia, just on that, what do you mean by case study?
So essentially, it's an exercise where we give the grad, not to give too much away, but we're going to give the grads it's like a basis of information to go by, and then they will have time, about 45 minutes to an hour, whereby they will then sort of put certain bits together and then create a case study, of which they will then present back in their one-to-one interview.
Yeah. Fab.
If that's a very roundabout summary.
I am laughing.
But that's all I can give.
No, that's fine. Before we did this webinar, obviously me and Georgia and Jess and all the grads get together, and me and Jess said to everybody, is there anything that we can't talk about? And everybody's like, no, Carla, you can talk about what you want. And Georgia sat there now going, oh, should have said that, Carla. Fine,
Forgot that one.
Thank you very much for that. And from a student, I don't know if this is a difficult question, but from a student applying to, finding out if, they've gone through the whole process, how long does the process take?
It can very much vary. So we will process applications all the time. Yeah. So as they're coming in, we are constantly processing applications. The volumes are very high. So in terms of a typical application process, it's not so quick. But it is still where there are certain, so you've got the SJTs, then the video assessments. So from the SJT to the video assessments, it's really slick and quite quick. And then there will be a slight delay between passing the video assessment and then being invited to the assessment centre, because we've still got the backlog of people going through the SJTs and the video assessments. So then once we've closed off, how do we call it? Once we've sort of shut down the vacancies and we've stopped the campaign essentially, and we've caught everybody up and gave everyone the fair opportunity, then we will then start looking at dates and getting people booked in for assessment centres. So it's a slick process.
Perfect. Thanks, Georgia. And
Georgia, sorry, interrupting. Georgia, do you know when your closing date is?
Not yet. Okay. No, we haven't got a closing date in sight just at the moment.
That's fine. It's just something I'm saying again a lot to people that, people that are listening, if you see an opportunity, make sure you apply to it. Don't hang around and think, oh, I'll apply to that next week or I'll apply to that next week. If you see it, apply now, because what you don't want to happen is you like it, you don't apply to it straight away, and then it comes off the site. Say, for example, you give us a ring, say, shut it, we've got too many applications, we don't need any more. You don't want to be kind of left out. So if you do see it, you like it after this, maybe spend your weekend getting your application in.
Definitely.
Certainly. Just to add to that as well, Jessica, thank you, is we'd probably look to give a week's sort of notice period. So potentially once we've got that closing date in mind, we'll probably look to sort of let you guys know, and then you can pop it on our hub, and then people have got a deadline that they can reach.
Great.
And to everybody out there, obviously, if you follow Zurich, you'll be alerted to all these things like deadlines. Keep an eye on our social media pages as well. But like Jess said, and George has mentioned throughout her little part there, application numbers are high. This is what I mentioned right at the beginning of the webinar. So this is now your time to shine. Really, really, I can't stress enough to really put a good quality application together. And again, reiterating, Georgia, what you've said about their hub, there's some really, really good information on there from the application process, choosing your future, hints and tips, benefits and things like that. So definitely go and have a look, but from the horse's mouth, not calling you a horse. What key hints and tips would you give a student applying specifically to the insurance sector and to Zurich?
So I think for us, it's definitely take your time and be prepared.
Yeah.
Definitely. You don't want to be hopping into it and then be, making your way through the application process thinking, damn, I wish I took my time. Preparation is key with everything. So in terms of that, and we want to see you be yourself as well, definitely. I think that's the main thing. Prepare, take your time, and find somewhere that's quiet, where you're not going to get distracted, and really sort of make sure it's a nice process for yourself, especially when it comes to the video interview. You want to be relaxed, you want to have a nice environment around you, and to be honest, some people find that quite daunting, the video interview side of it. It is really quite new for a lot of people out there. I know sort of a lot of us are getting used to it now, but you've not got anyone talking back at you like we have today. You are talking to a camera, so you don't know if you've said something right or wrong.
Yeah.
So you really need to prepare yourself and really just relax and be yourself. We viewed a couple of videos already, and there's some really good characters that we just love to see come through. You know, we're all human. So it doesn't matter if you say something wrong, you can correct yourself, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, we all say things you think, oh, I shouldn't have said that. This is my life on a Thursday night when I'm rewatching these webinars. But yeah, be yourself. You know, this is what everybody wants. You know, they want to see the genuine you. And I think that's important to, you know, Georgia and Zurich in general. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Very insightful. Thank you very much to all you grads, and obviously Georgia as well, for taking part today. As we've all mentioned, Zurich has currently got 5 placements and 5 graduate opportunities listed on the Zurich Company Hub on GradCracker. But actually those 5 vacancies are not for 5 people. So they're actually recruiting 26 graduates in total and 17 interns. So again, and there's lots and lots of opportunities open to you. So make sure you do not miss out by, you know, being complacent with your application or leaving it to the last minute. You know, time is of the essence. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Me and Jessica, the A team, will be with you next Thursday, same place, same time at 2 o'clock. We are joined next Thursday by Fraser Nash. You might not have heard of them, but they are a fascinating engineering technology consultancy company. They work in a wide range of sectors. We'll be joined by Ian, who's a recruitment business partner, and 3 grads who have got some really, really exciting stories to tell. And I'm really looking forward to sharing those stories with you all. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you to the panel. You've all been amazing. And we will see you all next week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.